What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Dorm Debate podcast, and welcome to all the new subscribers that came over from TikTok. We got a bunch of new followers on TikTok. Welcome. This is the Dorm Debate podcast. We have a special episode for you today. We have a Q&A. So on TikTok, if you don't follow us on TikTok, it's at Dorm Debate Podcast. I made a video that said you could comment any question you had for us on the video, and we would answer it today on the podcast. We have a whole segment dedicated to answering as many questions as we could. There's a lot of them. To our surprise, there's a lot of them, but we'll get to as many as we can. But we do want to touch on a couple last week games that happened, and the main one, I think, we had it on our game of the week, is Bills and Chiefs. And we all, me, Caleb, and Jonathan, picked the Chiefs, and John was the lone sheep picking the Bills.
Okay, just single out the one game that you guys got right and I got wrong.
We gotta give them context. Yeah,
You know,
like I don't disagree with the facts, but the representation of them. I was on the edge of my seat all of.
We just had to make sure that everyone knows that John is human. John's human. He does get stuff wrong.
I told everybody to go to the casino and put money on the 49ers, and nobody listened to me.
Now, I knew we were in trouble because for background, okay? We'll give all the details, but what was it? We all disagreed. Me, Jared, and Jonathan all agreed on 3 of the games, and John was the lone dissenter on 3 other games, right? One was the Rams. What was it? It was the Chiefs versus
Packers,
Bills.
Buccaneers,
Buccaneers, and then
49ers, Rams.
49ers, Rams. We had said Packers, Rams.
Yeah,
Chiefs.
Basically we all said Packers, Rams, Chiefs. And
so
John said the total opposite.
On every single account. I got nervous though when I saw that Tony Dungy had a same thing with him. He was the lone dissenter on the panel that they all guessed the winner of the game. Everyone said the Rams except him. And when I saw that, I was like, oh no. John might be right. John might get this one because Tony is right a lot of the time. If you look him up, Tony Dungy's like often the lone dissenter and he gets it. He just knows a coach, Peyton Manning. He knows what he's talking about. And apparently,
I was definitely nervous going in. I was definitely, that was maybe the first time I was actually rooting for the Chiefs.
Such an unnecessary. Why do we do that?
Low key.
We didn't have to.
Unnecessary stress and anxiety for me. Let's get into the game. It was 26-17 Chiefs win. It was a rainy day. No one could throw the ball the first half. Both the quarterbacks looked bad. But at the end of the day, Josh Allen threw for 122 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. In an attempt to beat the Chiefs, they lost. It is now their second straight loss. They lost to the Titans last week, and now they have the Jets coming up. So I think we all can agree that they will bounce back and get a win next week. But as far as where they should be and where people thought they were, top of the division, contenders for the playoffs, maybe could possibly beat the Chiefs, Josh Allen for MVP. John, where do the Bills sit right now? You had your first 2 tests, Titans and Chiefs, and you lose both. Where do you stand right now in the Bills?
I still think that they stand pretty high. And I know everybody's saying, they played 2 good teams and they lost, but the Titans and the Chiefs are really good teams, and the Bills had played bad teams before. And it's not like the Bills have always been at this high level. Last year, the Chiefs and the Titans were playing at this high level. This is the Bills' first year playing with all this confidence and all this big win percentage and everything. So they're just trying to get their feet under them and basically learn how to play as the favorite every game. And I don't think it's a big problem because their division is so bad. I mean, you saw the Patriots give up 6 field goals to the Broncos and still lose. So I think that at worst, they'll go 1-1 against the Patriots, and then they'll beat the Dolphins and they'll beat the Jets, easy. So I still definitely think they're going to make the playoffs, and I think they could definitely win the division. I think they will win the division, but I wouldn't discount them yet. It's still the first quarter of the season. We're literally at the quarterway mark right now. That was just week 6. So I would still give them a chance. Let them play some bigger teams because they're going to play good teams like the Chiefs and Titans again. So let's see how they fare. And I think they'll bounce back because you could tell Allen was just not into it. They didn't seem like they had any desire to win that game. So we'll see them bounce back against the Jets. I don't know if they'll destroy them, but they're going to definitely win. And we'll see how they do going forward.
Jonathan?
Yeah. So let me preface my comments by saying this. That prediction of Josh Allen winning the MVP, you can take that prediction, crumple it up, and throw it in the trash because that's not going to happen. So, look, the Chiefs are a better team than they were last year. And I think their offense is better because of Stephon Diggs. If he wasn't on this team, then I don't think we would be talking about Josh Allen like this. Josh Allen's good this year because of Stephon Diggs. So don't make a mistake about that, guys. That's the first thing. The second thing, if you look at the teams they've beat the first 4 weeks, the Rams, they're 4-2. The Jets, they won a game. Las Vegas Raiders, they're 2-2. Dolphins are 3-3.
The Raiders beat the Chiefs though.
Yeah, but they're divisional rivals and they know them better. They see them twice a year,
Better matchup.
So it's a little better matchup, just like the Chargers, So the division games are a little bit closer always, But that's why you saw Las Vegas Raiders beat the Chiefs. And again, a couple of touchdowns got called back. So, I don't know. But I'm just saying, Bills are better than average. Yes, that's what that the first 4 weeks told you. They're better than average. But in terms of the best of the best, the creme de la creme, you can't talk about the Bills. You can't talk about the Bills. Josh Allen's not MVP. You clearly showed that when his team needed him, going against the Chiefs. This was going to be a statement if they win. This would have been a statement if they won this game. He didn't perform. He didn't perform well. He didn't show up. I think, what was it, like 16 fantasy points he had? No, this guy's not the MVP. So, look, I think the Bills are better than average. Great team. I think they're better than I thought they would be this year. But when we talk about, great teams in the NFL today, I don't know if you can include the Bills in that conversation. They're just average. When they faced the real tough opponents like the Titans last week, they struggled big time. Chiefs, they struggled big time. And, there was a play where Derrick Henry pushed Josh Norman. I don't know if you guys saw that. That was embarrassing.
Yeah.
I think that sums up the Bills. That sums up the Bills for the rest of the season. That's how it's going to be. They're just going to get pushed out of it. That's not them.
Come on. Give them a
Bills,
chance.
jump off the bandwagon right now. I know they're talking about cereal. They're going to buy, don't buy the cereal.
Josh's Jacks. You got to get that. Tastes good. Tastes like an MVP.
Caleb, talk to me.
I said last week that if it weren't for Russell Wilson existing, Josh Allen could be leading the MVP race. And that's still, at the time, I think he was definitely second in a lot of receiving yards, touchdowns. Right now, there's legitimate thing to say about Mahomes being second. But statistically speaking, if you're talking the comparison between passer rating, yards, touchdowns, all the other things, he does have turnover issues, which is why I think it's maybe brought down a little bit. But Allen will be up there. And I think he's having a breakout year. He has the team around him, and they've been building up to this moment. I think now's not the time to jump off the bandwagon. I was going to say, amazing how we can look at two things differently, but I feel like the games against it would be easy to say after the Titans and the Chiefs that they can't win against good teams, right? I think that's something that's more legitimate. It sounds tough, but it's more legitimate against the Ravens than it is the Bills, because the Bills beat what were the two teams? I'm blanking on the other ones. They beat Las Vegas and the Rams. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I think, Las Vegas, Los Angeles. And those, I think the Las Vegas is a dark horse. I think they're better than most people give them credit for. And the Rams are, 4-2. They're not bad this year. I think that the two losses, a lot of the losses that they've had were close on those respective teams. But I think Allen's the guy that can win close games. It was close with the Chiefs for a good amount of the game. So I think the last score doesn't reflect the differential. Although I do say for the Chiefs game, he wasn't playing as well as he had a few mistakes. Like he did seem a little shaken, didn't seem to be as confident, but I think he's still the guy. I think it's too early to, if they lose against the Jets, then that's a sign, that's a worrying sign. But if they bounce back and kind of ride that wave, I mean, they're leading the division. They might, get a home playoff game if they win it all. I don't think now's the time to jump off the bandwagon.
They're so lucky. The Bills are so lucky that it was raining a little. If it wasn't raining, it would have been like 42-13, just like last week.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
This is home, right? It was a home game. So they're used to it. They got to be used to it.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. The throws by Josh Allen in like the first couple of drives were awful. He was throwing behind the receivers, and I was giving him like the benefit of the doubt that, the ball's wet, like it's misting out, Mahomes is even having trouble throwing.
Exactly.
But that's you're the Buffalo Bills quarterback. You need to know how to play in, snow, sleet, rain, anything, and get the job done. That was your time. Kansas City was supposed to come in and struggle in that weather, and that's your time, Josh Allen, to come up and take advantage of that, and he didn't. I don't think it's time to jump off the Bills bandwagon at all, or Josh Allen at all. Josh Allen's a phenomenal quarterback. He's a great quarterback. Arguably, this is going to sound pretty bad, but he's arguably probably the best quarterback to come out of that 2018 draft class. I mean, you think Sam Darnold right now, he's not doing great. People will say it's because of Adam Gase, and that's fine. But if you just look at, winning records and talent, Lamar Jackson is on a really good team, and his running ability will give him, the edge to Josh Allen. But if we're talking quarterback, Josh Allen has a way better arm paired with his running ability, which is very underrated, and his arm strength, accuracy. He's the best quarterback to come out of that draft right now because Lamar currently cannot throw. The Bills did a perfect draft. They got Josh Allen. They have their franchise guy. It's locked. Everyone that says that he's inaccurate and, he's just has a huge arm and, can't put the ball on the money it's ridiculous. The Josh Allen slander that I see on TikTok is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. He is trying to build up the Bills from nothing, literally nothing. It's a hard thing to do, and they finally just got Stephon Diggs. They finally just got a good receiver, and Cole Beasley, a really good receiver too. So, you can't just put all the blame on Josh Allen. This guy's in his second year, and he looks like a veteran out there. And I think, this will be a bold prediction for the playoffs, but I don't know. I think he could lead them to the conference championship and shock some people. If it's Bills versus Ravens, if we're just looking at quarterbacks, Lamar hasn't won a playoff game. That's just the facts. And Josh Allen has. So that's just the facts so far. Don't jump off Josh Allen's bandwagon. Jonathan, do you disagree?
Jared Trinka. Did you just sit here and say that Josh Allen is better than Lamar Jackson?
Quarterback.
The person who won MVP last year? You just said that?
Quarterback.
Lamar Jackson's good because he does what the coaches tell him to do. He executes perfectly what the coaches tell him to do.
What?
I mean, obviously Lamar, he can't throw as well as Josh Allen, but in terms of executing the game plan and putting up crazy numbers from fantasy, Lamar's a better guy than Josh Allen. Josh Allen, yes, he's a strong arm and everything, but you can't say Josh Allen's a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson.
I think Allen is a better quarterback, and here's why. Lamar had a better path for the first few years of his career because his running was so good, and people didn't really care about him passing. They're like, all right, we're just going to stop the run. So the passing was easier to do. I think when we look 5 years down the road, I think Allen is going to have much better stats than Lamar because Lamar won't be able to run as much. And Allen is only growing. Did you see how much he's grown from last year to this year? Just imagine how much more he's going to grow. Lamar hasn't grown much. So I think it was easy for Lamar early on. But now, and Allen, remember last year in fantasy, like Allen was running it every week. He was getting like 80 rushing yards. Now he stopped that. He's throwing more. And I think that's going to be good for his development throughout the next 5 years.
Lamar had a gift with John Harbaugh, literally building a completely new offense from scratch around Lamar. That fits Lamar perfectly. If he goes somewhere else and tries to fit himself in an NFL system, I don't think it works. Josh Allen, you could put anywhere. You could put him in the Chiefs offense, and he fits right in. He's got a strong arm, running ability, great scrambler. I mean, he has all the tools. It just so happens that Lamar has a whole offense built around him, and he's a phenomenal runner. You know, that.
Yeah.
I want to throw a bone to both sides here. If you want to finish, Jared.
No, you're good.
Because I throw a bone to both sides. Because if you're, let's go through the 2018 draft, right? Because I think it's a hot take that you made. But
I got a list.
We got to go through the semantics a little bit. If you're talking about the best thrower of the football, let's go through who top few picks, all right, that are still in the league that people might know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Baker Mayfield was number 1, Sam Darnold 3rd, Josh Allen 7, Josh Rosen 10. We know what happened with him. Yeah. Lamar Jackson, and then Mason Rudolph, and then a couple other quarterbacks that I don't know as well. So I imagine they're deeper. Or who knows? But out of all those, of the throwing of the football right now, I'd agree that Allen's probably the best thrower of the football. Lamar Jackson, though, I don't think that's a dog on him that he's a bad quarterback. Because ultimately, it's like I've seen that argument where it's like Lamar would only work on the Ravens, but then in my head, I'm like, he's not going anywhere. Like, that is the coaching. Like, you build a system around one guy, and like, it's true, if he gets hurt, then the idea is like, oh, it's all gone. That's fair, but it's not. You don't talk about that with maybe you did with Michael Vick, or Kyler Murray runs a lot too. Josh Allen has a couple running touchdowns too. So I don't think that's much of the issue. More just when you need him to throw and you can't run it out, do you have a guy that can do that? And then maybe you get into the conversation why Allen might be better overall. But right now, I mean, in terms of winningest, I think Lamar carries that out of that draft. But skill-wise, Allen's having a breakout year. So who knows where he'll be.
He's taken a huge jump. And, John has mentioned this before. When the Ravens get into the playoffs and they lock up Lamar, rushing-wise, and he's forced to throw in the pocket, that's when they lose. Like, if you can stop him from running, which is very hard, but if you can, he can't throw the ball. Like, I know everyone on TikTok, they're going to show his stats from last year and be like, oh my God, he can't throw. Well, he threw for like the most yards and he threw for the most touchdowns. So
you got to defend yourself against the crowd.
Yeah, it's like,
well, it's like you got to find a balance. I think watching Kyler play against the Cowboys. Like, he can run it and also throw.
I would take Kyler over Lamar. That's a huge take, but I would take Kyler Murray over Lamar Jackson any day.
That's
for
even
sure.
Though I was like,
the way he can throw the deep ball, being that little and that fast, that's a gift right there. Like, he
keeps
is one
the
of a
defense
kind.
honest. Yeah, he can on the run bomb it, and in the pocket throw it deep, and that keeps the defensive safeties honest. Which is, I think Lamar can do that, but it's just not as pronounced as you see with other quarterbacks. I don't think he's a bad quarterback, but there's true. You got to always adjust your style a little bit as defenses get to know you.
Yep.
Right.
Jonathan, give your last words in.
Yeah. So there's a difference between today's quarterback and a thrower. Yes, Josh Allen's a better thrower, but in terms of an overall better quarterback, which is, kind of changed
like a lot
in terms of 2020, Lamar is the best right now. Lamar is the best because he can run it. He can throw it when you need him to. I mean, he's not the best thrower, but he can throw it when you need him to. I mean, the Chiefs are just good. They're just a good team. That's why they struggled against them. And so when you need Lamar to perform, he can perform. And that's why I hope, they'll do well in the playoffs this year. Last season, It was his first time in the playoffs, so they struggled. But he's better than Josh Allen. Josh Allen's a better thrower, don't get me wrong, but today's quarterback needs to be able to do a lot of different things. Lamar can do that.
I think Lamar needs to be able to be stopped rushing wise and still win. If he rushes for 20 yards and he throws for 300 and 3 touchdowns, I'll be impressed. But he's yet to show me that so far. And the playoff wins. If he doesn't get a playoff win this year, that is going to be the looming stat across his name. That was a long time. We talked about that for a long time. I thought that was a heated one. Next up, before the Q&A, we just have a quick little segment, and it's a tribute to Among Us. If you guys play the little mobile game, it's called Who's the Imposter?
Like the
there it is.
Like you get the math.
Yeah. We have a list of undefeated and 1-loss teams, and the crew here is going to tell me who the imposter is. The list goes as following: the Seahawks 5-0, the Steelers 5-0, the Titans 5-0. Now for the 1-loss: Chiefs, Ravens, Packers, Bears. Now, does anyone have their imposter that stands out to you?
I know who the imposter is already.
Who's the imposter?
We didn't even have to. We didn't even have to start doing
like that.
We're gonna vote him off.
Yeah, I'm ready to. I'm ready to call a meeting.
Where? What's the evidence?
We don't even need to start doing the tasks. We can just vote them off now.
All right, tell us. Who is it?
The imposter is the Chicago Bears.
No.
Yes, the imposter is the Chicago Bears. I said this a couple of weeks ago. Nick Foles coming in and winning the game, that was nothing. And I still stand by that. I think that this team, I'd be surprised if they made the playoffs, to be honest with you. They're playing decent football right now, but I just don't think they can keep it up. Let's just look at their next 5 games. I think they lose 4 of these 5 games. Here's what they are: at Rams, home against the Saints, at the Titans, home against the Vikings, at the Packers. That's 4 out of 5 games they lose. And that, let's say they win one of those, okay, they're 6-5. I'd say they're not doing too good. I mean, the NFC is looking pretty good, so I'd say that it's an easy pick for me. I think the Bears are the imposter here.
Can I justify for the Bears a little bit here?
You can try.
You got I mean, you beat the Buccaneers and you beat Tom Brady.
That was Brady didn't have Godwin. Evans was hurt. He didn't have anybody.
Okay. You have a Super Bowl winning quarterback in Nick Foles, old Saint Nick. And you have a top 5 defense.
Not anymore.
What do you mean anymore? What happened?
Top 10. They're top 10.
Okay, top 10. Where's their weakness? Where do they drop off? Why can't they sustain this?
Running game.
Okay. Tariq Cohen's injury really affected them.
I think that affected them, but I think David Montgomery, I don't think he's great for the starting role. And I just don't think that Foles can do what he did against the Falcons every week. And when the Panthers are a decent team, we were talking about them, but they're not that hard of a team to beat. All right, go to the Rams. All right, let's see how they're going to do. Play against the Saints. Go to the Titans. Home against the Vikings. Then go to the Packers. Where this is, if they go 3-2 in these next 5 games, I'll give them the respect they deserve. But I just don't think. I think they're going to go 1-4.
Okay. Anybody else have their imposter?
Yeah, I'll go because mine's different at least. Because here's my honest opinion in a couple different ways. I do feel like the Bears are easy fruit to pick, low hanging fruit, because people will look at the quarterback situation. Like basically, I think a lot of it centers. The run game's a legitimate concern. I get that, but they do have a variety of runners there, I believe. That you never know. And but if you don't believe in Nick Foles as the guy, then I think you're liable to pick the Bears. Because all the other teams have pretty solid quarterback situations. If you believe in Nick Foles and his abilities, then as I do, I think they're not the imposter. So if I had to guess who the imposter is, it's gonna probably bother a lot of people. But I gotta say, I think it's the Ravens.
Yes, that was gonna be mine.
Ooh,
that was gonna be mine.
That's 2 votes.
That's right, 2 votes for Ravens.
Since you'll talk about it, I'll leave it more open for you. But here's why. Okay, they're a great team. I know we just praised Lamar Jackson in his own way, even though we kind of said he's not the best thrower of the football of his draft class. Mm-hmm. But I still think there's more to being a quarterback than just throwing the football, oddly enough. And I think Lamar fills a lot of those holes in ways that Allen doesn't. The reason I think they're the imposter is what we've alluded to before. Challenges in the playoffs. I don't think it's a personal thing against Lamar that he hasn't won a playoff game, because really, we put a lot of success and blame on the quarterbacks, and really they only play half a football game. There's always the defense. And I think, Jared, you alluded to it, that once they figure out Lamar and the run game and they just kind of let him – there's strategies to stop running quarterbacks. It's very hard to. But you kind of have to sacrifice one part of your defense. But if they're able to do that in the game that matters and get the lead on the Ravens style of play doesn't hold that well to coming from behind. I mean, that's for sure. And I think, and again, I'm a little biased being an Eagles fan, but that Eagles game, we had – of 11 offensive starters, we had 3 at the start of the game of our original starters. So all the 8 other positions were backups, right? Zach Ertz was the 3rd, and he got hurt in the beginning of the 4th, which is when we started to score points. That game, we almost got a 2-point conversion to tie the game. Like the Eagles, as bad as you might think the NFC East is and our record shows, we came that close to bringing down the Ravens, right? So I think that shows cracks, especially considering how many injuries the Eagles have and how close we got. And I think once, either the pedal's not there with Lamar or the offense or the defense kind of giving up a lead or they're coming from behind, I don't know if they have the pieces there. That's why I'm leaning towards more the Ravens being the imposter.
Yeah, I'll piggyback that. The mentality that the Ravens have, and this is just from an outside perspective, obviously, getting beat by the Chiefs so early in the season and not being able to face them in the regular season is going to be frustrating. On top of the fact that they've been to the playoffs twice and have lost each time. That I always think about Michigan versus Ohio State in football. Michigan has not beaten Ohio State in like 8 or 9 games in a row. Like 9 years straight, Michigan's lost. And they interviewed Devin Bush, who recently was in the news because he tore his ACL. Thoughts out to him. But he was doing an interview saying, what is the problem with beating Ohio State? Are they just better athletes? Are they just better players than you? And he said, honestly, the week up to the game and during the game, you just felt that you were helpless and there was nothing you could do to stop it. Like the points were being scored and you didn't have any mentality of, we'll get back in this. Like, come on, guys. Like, we're only down a touchdown. He's like, if we were down 1 touchdown, we felt like another 3 touchdowns were coming. It's the 8 years before is a mentality of losing and not being able to come back. Like, we're not going to come back. Why would we? We've lost 9 years in a row. That mentality is starting to happen with the Ravens, and it's dangerous because if they lose again in the playoffs, it's not like they're going to start rebuilding. but there's gonna be some problems in the locker room. And what stands out to me is the leadership. I don't know who's the leader of this team. Nobody stands out. There's not a real veteran. I wouldn't consider Mark Ingram the leader of this team. There's no leader. There's no captain. Lamar, whenever he starts to lose, and you saw that in the Chiefs game, he goes back and he sits down. And then he gets up, plays, and it's 3 and out, and he goes back and he sits down. There's no leadership. And I think that is going to haunt them when it comes to playoff time. And when they lose again in the playoffs, it's going to be ugly. I don't know what they're going to do, like as far as changes in the offseason, but I'm looking more from a mental standpoint. They are not ready to be a playoff team. They're just not. If you compare them to the Steelers, you take the Steelers 9 times out of 10 because Ben Roethlisberger is a leader. He can lead those young receivers. Can Lamar do that? Can he become the leader? I don't know. Maybe down the line he can. But as of right now, I don't see a captain on that team. Jonathan, you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. So, those are all great picks. And this list, honestly, this list of teams, they're all really great. But if I had to choose an imposter, I hate to say this, but I'm going to have to agree with John. Because of the schedule. Because of the schedule, next few games, Chicago, they do have a tough schedule. Rams, they're hungry for a win because they just got embarrassed by the 49ers. They were supposed to win that. They're hungry for a win to stay in the division, stay in the division race. Saints are, hungry for another win. Titans have been playing really well. I think these next few games are going to be difficult for Chicago. Packers, I think they have an easy schedule. I think they play Atlanta in the next couple weeks or something. Then they play the Vikings again. I think the Packers have an easier next few games. So from a schedule perspective, I think the Chicago Bears are going to struggle. That's not to say that they're not a great team. I think all these teams that Jared listed have the opportunity of making the playoffs. But if I had to choose one, I'll say because of the schedule, Chicago is going to have a tough time.
Okay. So we ended on a tie, and no one gets ejected. So right. Everyone's safe. Now, on to probably what everyone is wanting, the Q&A segment of the podcast. And this is where we got questions from you guys, the fans, over on TikTok. And we're going to just go right into it with the first question. And it's, should the Cowboys sign Earl Thomas? Now, we just watched the Cowboys yesterday get slacked in their own house by the Texas legend Kyler Murray, who is undefeated in AT&T Stadium. I believe he's 7-0. Absolute legend. The Cowboys are looking for answers right now. And could Earl Thomas be the answer? Jonathan, you're a Cowboys fan. Is Earl Thomas the answer?
Earl Thomas is definitely the answer.
Really?
Look, yes, of course he's the answer. The Cowboys, yes, we're winning the NFC East, but the Eagles are starting to play a little bit better. I'm not going to lie. Carson Wentz isn't struggling as he was in the beginning of the season. So once things start to click even more, then I'm going to be scared as a Cowboys fan. I think the Eagles could steal its division. So in order to protect ourselves from that and improve our defense just a little bit better, Jerry Jones, why not get Earl Thomas? What are we doing? If we end up not making the playoffs because our defense continues to play terrible, then people are going to be frustrated at Jerry Jones, and we're not going to make the division. We're not going to make the playoffs, and so we definitely need Earl Thomas if we're serious about making a playoff run, or just making the playoffs in general. I think Earl Thomas is a great player. Yes, he has some issues off the field, but I think his playing kind of trumps that. He's a Texas guy. He went to UT Austin. I think he could really spark our defense and keep us in games. I mean, we were embarrassed by the Cardinals like yesterday. If Earl Thomas was playing, I think it would have been a different story. So yes, we should definitely get Earl Thomas.
John?
No, Earl Thomas is definitely not the answer. He has been dropped by the Seahawks. He's been dropped by the Ravens. He's obviously a problem. And I just got an update today, and Cowboys players are talking pretty bad about the coaches. They're saying the coaches are totally unprepared. Another player puts it bluntly, they just aren't good at their jobs. They're not coming in, the coaches aren't coming in with a plan. Your run defense is horrible. And you know that Kyler Murray is going to run all over you. So why don't you put guys at the line? I don't understand that. They just assume Kenyon Drake has been sucking, so they just don't have to stack the line. And, all that helps is fantasy players. So I think Earl Thomas is not the option. I mean, the only deep ball I really seen them get burnt on is the Kirk one yesterday. They've been gashed on the ground. And, yeah, you get Leighton Vander Esch back, but you still haven't really had a pass rush. So I think there's so many more problems, and Earl Thomas is not going to fix the problems. You need to somehow motivate this team, and your coaches have to get back on track and put together a game plan that everybody can believe in, and everybody wants to go out and succeed, because nobody's fired up. The best player on their team, Zeke, he just fumbled twice. He's just not in it. And if Zeke isn't in it, nobody's going to be in it, because he's what this team revolves around now. So Earl Thomas is not the answer. And I just hope the Cowboys can not look as bad as they do, because they have literally the worst defense in NFL history right now.
Caleb, do you agree?
Put a little more bluntly than I would, because being an Eagles fan, there's always this playful, at times tenuous rivalry with the Cowboys. Yeah, so the Eagles, being an Eagles fan, it's tough. I think should the Cowboys sign Earl Thomas, just to get on that? Truthfully, like John said, I think the problems are a lot deeper than that, and it's hard to say where those problems are. Like you said, in terms of losing Dak Prescott, really hurts. We've said that he's not the best of quarterbacks, but I've always contested that he has these intangible qualities as a quarterback that he just carries the team with him. And even before that, though, the Cowboys probably should have lost that game to the Falcons. So they should have maybe lost more than they have right now. But that being said, I think the signing Earl Thomas isn't going to fix those problems. I don't know the reasons why these other teams have dropped him, or all the nuances behind every decision. But to be honest, I'm a little surprised, because sticking with players with questionable backgrounds, with histories. I'm not going to mention any names, but they don't have problems with trouble players, So I'm a little surprised that if they were going to get Earl Thomas, why they haven't at this point. Because I think they could use him. I think he's a great player. I don't know what off the field is stopping them from doing that, though. But that being said, I think getting some injuries back, like Leighton Vander Esch and things like that, it was just, if I was a Cowboys fan, I'd be concerned after last game for a number of reasons. One was that the whole game was built around Elliott, and I think the defense knew that. But Elliott fumbling twice hurts. The one fumble was off a weird quick play that was a result of Dalton kind of pecking it out to him quickly. So, I mean, that's like an iffy, but you still a fumble. And then not being able to stop the run, not being able to defend against the run is going to kill a defense over time. By the fourth quarter, they're going to be gassed. And the one thing I will say that might be on the upside for the Cowboys that I don't think people are giving credit to is Andy Dalton. He didn't play the best. I think part of it shows that if you can't plug a new quarterback into that system, it shows that Dak is probably worth more than people credit to him. And I'll give him that. But that being said, I think Dalton, if you give Andy Dalton a little time, let him grease the wheels a bit, I'm a little nervous to underestimate him, because he was a starter for a while. There's a reason why they have Burrow in Cincinnati. I get it. But he might be one of the better backups in the league. And for the Cowboys to have him behind in the pocket, I mean, give him time to get used to the starting. But I'm curious to see if he does better, how much that'll help the team. But I think if the Cowboys were going to sign Earl Thomas, they would have done it by now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't give up on Andy Dalton yet. I think he just needs time to practice with the first stringers. I don't remember at what point, but they did show a stat well into the game that like CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, they had 0 targets and like 0 receptions. So I don't know what that specifically means, but I just think he needs to develop some chemistry with these receivers. And that'll take some time, more practices and things like that. So I don't think it's time to like jump off Andy Dalton and say that he's a bad quarterback. But as far as Earl Thomas, no, this will not fix it. This will actually make it worse, because from what the players are saying about the coaches now, Earl Thomas would say 10 times worse about the coaches. I mean, he would be vocal about it. He'd be like, "Yep, these coaches suck. I shouldn't have come off of my couch and try to help these guys. Like, this is a joke." So that would Earl Thomas is just don't do it. You have huge risk in taking him, and the upside is not a lot at all. Moving on. Can the 49ers be a playoff contender?
Yes. The 49ers, you guys all doubted the 49ers, and I told you not to. Nobody listens to me. Maybe you guys will start listening to me now. The 49ers will make the playoffs.
No way.
Oh my
They're in the
God.
hardest division.
They're still better than the Rams. We saw that. They're better than the Cardinals. And
no.
And yeah, and they could definitely beat the Seahawks, I think.
No. They lost to the Cardinals week 1 with all their players. Now they don't have anybody on defense.
That was the first game. Nobody knew what Kyler was going to come out with, and Hopkins, nobody knew. Trust me, the 49ers will make the playoffs. 49ers fans, don't worry. Your Super Bowl from last year won't go unnoticed. You guys will make the playoffs, because that was the first game that they had all their offensive stars. And they didn't even have it for the full game. Mostert got hurt, and he was out. Now they had Kittle, they had Ayuk, they had Debo.
Yeah, but now Mostert is on IR.
He'll be back in 4 games. You could get out. You could do without him. I mean, trust me, the 49ers are a solid team, as we saw against the Rams. So I think, yes, they are. I don't think they'll win more than one playoff game, but I do think their fans can hold on, because I think they will make the playoffs.
I disagree. That Super Bowl was a one-hit wonder. Put yourself in the category of the Carolina Panthers. Put yourself in the category with the Atlanta Falcons. It's just how it is. You got lucky because the division that you had last year was really sucky, with the Rams being bad and the Cardinals being bad. Now the Cardinals are legit. The Rams are legit. And definitely the Seahawks are light years ahead of the 49ers. And it may be because of injury, but that's just the way it goes. Like, you got Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas injured, so your defense is going to be lacking. And Garoppolo played well last game, but can he sustain it and be consistent? That remains to be seen. It's just not their year. The Cardinals are rolling. The Rams are better than people expected, and the Seahawks, I mean, they're undefeated, so there's not much to be said about that. They're just division alone. I don't even see them getting second place. So, no, you guys are not playoff contenders. Caleb, Jonathan?
Yeah. Okay.
Jonathan, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. So I think the 49ers are still in the race. I don't know if they'll necessarily, win the division and make the playoffs, but I think it's very possible they could. I think in that division, it's really competitive. Anybody could win it. You just never know. Seahawks obviously doing well. Rams, they lost to the 49ers, but that division could go anyway. So they're not like the Washington football team where they're definitely not going to make the playoffs. I think this division is different. So if I was a 49ers fan, I'll still feel very optimistic seeing that performance against the Rams last week, or a few days ago. But yeah, so the 49ers could definitely still make the playoffs. So nothing to worry about if you're a 49ers fan.
Yeah, it's like you got to give credit to the fact that they were in the Super Bowl like a minute ago, and it's easy to forget. I was surprised to see them lose to the Rams. Got me there, John. But to answer the question, if they're still playoff contenders, the short answer is yeah. Like at this point in time, when we're recording this podcast, they are still contenders because, Jonathan, you said it. That division is very competitive. NFC West, Seattle Seahawks are 5-0, Cardinals 4-2, Rams 4-2, San Francisco 3-3. So they're 2 wins away from first. Now that's if Seattle loses the next 2, but that's a 2-game difference. Other divisions are 4 or 5 game differential. That at this point in the season, it's like, well, you kind of know if you're not going to make it. In your division. So the one thing I will say, I don't know if they can, unless 3 other teams in their division trip up, I don't see them winning the division. But they'll have to compete for one of the wild cards, which I don't think is out of their, barring any other injuries to especially Garoppolo. You saw without Garoppolo how they do. Assuming he's back 100%, not going to get injured, yeah, I'd say they're still contenders.
Okay. All right. Go to more recent news. Was it a good decision to start Tua over Fitz? Or should I say, is it a good decision to start Tua over Fitzmagic, should we say? Ryan Fitzpatrick, Harvard grad.
John? That's like on Madden, I make all my quarterbacks Harvard graduate. Harvard graduate.
This was a little bit of a surprising move. I think we all saw that.
They've been on a roll with him.
Exactly. They've won 3 straight games. The only teams they lost to were really good teams. And they just beat the 49ers. They put up 43 points on them. So they've been playing really well. But to be honest, I really like this move by the Dolphins to put Tua in. They know that Tua is the future. He's going to lead this team for the next 10 years. And they feel like whatever he's shown in practice and with his hip, that he's ready to play and he's ready to start for this team. And I actually really like it because instead of waiting for Fitzmagic to break down, because at some point we know he always breaks down during the season and they lose like 3 games straight and he throws like 6 interceptions. Mm-hmm. Instead of waiting for that, now you have the Dolphins on a high. Now this team really feels that they could go to the playoffs, and it's possible that they can. We don't know. None of us have ever seen Tua play in the NFL, so it would be almost impossible to predict if they're going to make the playoffs. But I think that this is a great move. They get the bye next week, and then they come out of the bye and they go to the SoFi Stadium and play the Rams, which is a tough game. But I really like this decision with how the Dolphins are playing. I think it's better that you put him in a scenario that he can be successful instead of waiting for the team morale and the team to lose momentum and then throw him in there and then all of a sudden expect him to pick it back up. Now he plays with a team that has all the momentum, and I think he can lead this team. I'm very excited to see what he's going to do.
Yeah, I think this was a mistake. I'm not saying Tua is a bad player, but if it's not broken, then you have nothing to fix. Ryan Fitzpatrick has been playing really well these past few games. You guys are second in the division, just 1 game behind the Bills. And then all of a sudden in the midseason, you decide to start a rookie who doesn't have NFL experience yet. It's questionable. Ryan Fitzpatrick's not performing badly or anything.
Yeah, but he's not going to Fitzpatrick's not going to take you to the Super Bowl. That's 100%. He's not going to win a playoff game. So you might as well. Did you see what Tua did at Alabama? He can't. Yeah. Like as a freshman, he came in. So this guy can handle the big stage. Why not take a chance and start developing and put him in a good situation?
Yeah, I agree with that. But Alabama's different. They have great players at every position you look at: running back, receiver, lineman, anybody. So that's a little bit different. Now he's in reality. Now he has to play with a team that doesn't have the greatest of players. And I can promise you, Tua is not going to lead them to a Super Bowl. I think they should have squeezed as much as they could. This year.
Yeah, no.
I think they should have squeezed as much as possible from Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's been playing really well. He has a lot of experience, and Tua should have, been continuing to develop behind him. His time will come, but his time is not now. This was a bad decision, and I kind of question the coaching on that. So I don't wish him bad. I hope he does well, but this wasn't smart at all. Right now in the middle of the season, this wasn't smart. So no, it shouldn't have been it. It was a bad decision.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a really, really bold move. My first reaction when I saw it in the news, because that was announced just today,
Mm-hmm.
My first reaction when I saw it was, what the heck? Like, I mean, first I do have Ryan Fitzpatrick for the week on fantasy. I just feel like because I feel like it's just something the audience needs to know. Obviously I'm gonna drop Russell Wilson, but that's besides the point. My point is he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league so far this season. Let me tell you, he has the 8th most fantasy points among quarterbacks, and he might have one of the best passer ratings. You're talking about yards, touch across all metrics. He's across metrics, not even arguably. He's top 10 in many of those conversations. So my first reaction was, what the heck? Like, keep Fitzpatrick in. Why change it? Why fix was not broken? The games that they did lose were close, some of them, and it was because of Fitzpatrick keeping them in. But then I saw a tweet. I'm not going to read all of it, but it was an interesting perspective as to why they put him in. The coaching, I believe, the statement was that they just believe Tua's ready. And if he's ready, he is the future. And if for some reason, I saw memes where like the coach sees him play for 3 snaps, and they're like, "All right, you're the starter now." I'm like, okay, but
he made like 2 passes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's the right guy.
Yeah. Like, this man must have vision that like no mortal can observe but him. But I stumbled. I don't know. I'm pretty sure this is legitimate because Adam Schefter retweeted it. But on a podcast a month ago, basically Ryan Fitzpatrick talked about the position that he was in. Now, at the time, he was starting, so I don't know if this has changed with the news today. But basically, he was saying, if you know about Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's a journeyman QB, meaning that he's bounced around multiple teams as a starting quarterback. No team has kept him as a franchise, but maybe as like a transitionary quarterback. He's been in the league for a long time. I don't know exactly how many years, but it was like maybe around 04 or 06, one of those around there that he got drafted, and he stayed in the league that long. Most guys who get drafted probably don't even play, probably don't even stay in the league more than 2 years. So basically, I saw this thing on Twitter where he was saying that Fitzpatrick was saying that he wouldn't be where he was if it weren't for all these other quarterbacks in front of him who paved the way for him, who taught him the things that he knows. He mentioned Carson Palmer, I think, twice in terms of, Carson Palmer in his time was a starter, but giving time to the backup, giving him showing him the ropes. And basically it was a class act from Fitzpatrick. And, this was a month ago. Who knows if this is, legitimate or not now, but he was saying that he's happy and privileged to be in the position that he's in now, to be able to pay it forward to someone like Tua. And so after I saw that, I'm like, okay, yeah, it sucks that he's not going to play. But, the coaches believe it. Coaches putting his name on the line. It's also putting Tua to the fire. And if Fitzpatrick's, in a humble position to help the next generation, I think that's a great legacy. On the backhand of it, I think if Tua does worse than Fitzpatrick, talking about all the statistics that Fitzpatrick's gotten, it's like a trial by fire. If Tua goes in and starts to be lackluster, maybe even like average, then that might be. I don't know if it's concerning because you're talking about a guy who has been in the league for years, but Fitzpatrick has shown that people will rate him one of the not people in their heads will rate him one of the worst quarterbacks, even though statistically he's not, because he's a journeyman. But if you put Tua in there and Tua starts to struggle and suffer, then I think that might hurt Tua's development in a way. So there's a risk there. Point is, my first reaction was, what the heck? I think if the coaches believe it's time, they see more Tua than I do. So it'll be interesting to see, because now you have a metric to compare to. You can compare Tua's stats to Fitzpatrick's. Not every game is the same, but you'll be able to see if, maybe it'll show Tua's time is now. Maybe he goes way higher than Fitzpatrick is possible. I think that'll be curious to see.
Yeah, when I first saw the news, there was just one big question that I think was answered, and it's, did they value playoff experience over developing Tua? And I think that them putting him in this, like, right in the middle of a hot streak with Fitzpatrick, I think they've valued Tua's development more than the overall playoff experience for the team. And when you look at the schedule, why the Rams? Why pick out of your next 5 games? You pick the Rams, who have a phenomenal defense and a scary player in Aaron Donald. If he plays this game and does terrible, I'm talking like sacked multiple times, they lose the game, what's that going to do to his mentality? And from going forward, then he's got the Cardinals, and the Cardinals are on a hot streak. You're putting in a rookie quarterback with 2 teams. One has a great defense, and the other one's on a hot streak. Why would you just wait until you play the Chargers, and which is literally 3 weeks away? You play the Chargers, then you play the Broncos, then you play the Jets, then you play the Bengals. What a great time to put Tua in at that Chargers game. Beat the Chargers easily, beat the Broncos easily, beat the Jets, of course, and beat the Bengals easily. Like, those are games that are winnable for Tua. When you look at the Rams, to put him in as your first game to go and beat the Rams and beat Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, that's a tall task for someone coming into the NFL and also someone coming off an injury.
I think you guys are doubting Tua, and I get that argument, but what I'm trying to say is that so Fitzpatrick is not going to lead you to a Super Bowl. He's most likely not even going to lead you to the playoffs. He starts every season like this. Remember when he was on the Buccaneers and or I forget what team it was. Maybe it was.
Yeah, I remember. He started like the first 3 games as like the best quarterback.
Yeah, he was the best, and he always starts like this. So you have to get him out before he tanks, because he's going to tank at some point. And right now, I think it was the perfect decision. I love this move. I know they're playing the Rams, but I guarantee out of the bye week, if they lose, which I know this is early to predict, but I don't think if they lose, they're not going to lose by more than 4 points. Tua will be ready. They're going to make sure he's ready in his bye week. These are professional coaches. They know what they're doing. They know why they put him in. And I think it's the perfect opportunity, because you don't want Fitzpatrick to lose the momentum. The team is playing the best right now than it has in 10 years. So this is literally perfect time.
All right. That's fair. On to the next. Top 5 rookie receivers. Now, I told everyone to just name one, and that'll cover the top 4. And then maybe you'll figure out the one excluded from our picks. My pick, I'll start off first. My pick is Chase Claypool. I recently picked him up off of our waiver wire. I'll just go through his stats the last 2 games, because I think those were the 2 games that he kind of blew up and had the most targets, and where everyone kind of figured out who Chase Claypool was. He had 2 touchdowns, not 2 touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown last week, which was a big surprise to me. I saw that he got a touchdown on fantasy, and I saw no receiving stats. And I was like, what the heck is going on? He had a rushing touchdown. Over the last 2 weeks, 11 receptions, 184 yards, and 3 TDs. Now, what people might not know about Chase Claypool is he is massive. He is a huge target. And I think he's taller than McCaffrey, DK Metcalf. Sorry, I just had a stroke. DK Metcalf. Yeah. So this guy's a huge target. He's jacked. He weighs like just as much as Metcalf. And now he's taller than Metcalf. He went under the radar for me. I heard of him because he was at Notre Dame and Michigan played him, but he definitely went under the radar as far as draft prospects. With Ben Roethlisberger as his quarterback, his ceiling is through the roof. I mean, when you don't have to deal with a rookie quarterback or a developing quarterback, that's a beautiful thing for a receiver. And I think this is just the tip of the iceberg for Chase Claypool, because as you saw, he blew up in that game against whoever, and then the next game they used him in a rushing touchdown. So he's very versatile.
He got 4 touchdowns against the Eagles, and one of them was a rushing touchdown, and they pulled the same exact play last week, and he gets another rushing touchdown.
Yeah, very versatile player. So I was shocked with him. So I would definitely put him at least top 5 for rookie receivers. John, you want to go second?
I think Caleb should go next.
Okay.
We have to pick someone else, right?
Yeah.
I'll actually alternate a little bit because I want to talk about this player. I appreciate you letting me go. I'll pick someone a little lower on the list who's caught my eye. I want to talk a little bit about Jerry Jeudy from the Denver Broncos. Statistically, he's not at the best among the rookie receivers. So, like, if we're talking about opinions here, like if we could always rule which of all the rookie receivers, who has the most touchdowns, who has the most receptions. But there's a little more to what you observe that's kind of intangible when you watch a receiver or any player. And I think Jeudy there's a lot of receiving talent in the draft, right? Which is why it kind of hurts in a lot of these top 5 lists that Jalen Reagor is not the Eagles wide receiver pick, because it shows that I don't know. But Jerry Jeudy has shown to be a talent for the Broncos, and I think in combination with the developing Drew Lock. I mean, part of why I'm going to talk about Jerry Jeudy right now is because I think Drew Lock is a good quarterback. He's been out for a while, so he hasn't had a lot to prove. But I like what I've seen from Drew Lock. The problem with Jerry Jeudy, I think, why we don't hear his name as much, because there's a lot of talent on that Denver Broncos defense. I mean, he's been productive, Jeudy has, in terms of yard. Not a huge game, but some talented, highlights that you've seen in the way he's caught the ball for some touchdowns and things like that, and other receptions. But also having a quarterback who's developing like Drew Lock. I don't know if Drew Lock's quite the guy, but I think he's solid. I think he elevates tight ends if you're looking for a tight end. Noah Fant is a good tight end that I think will, with the return of their quarterback, they're going to see these guys maybe do a little better. I think Judy's going to be in the conversation by the end of the season for one of the top 5 rookies.
I think that's the difference between like the situation between what Chase Claypool's in and what Jerry Jeudy's in. If Jerry Jeudy's on the Steelers, obviously he would be.
Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, his stats would be through the roof. But with Claypool, maybe Roethlisberger is actually fueling his production. So it's unfortunate that Jeudy in his first couple games, he has to deal with a backup quarterback, and then Drew Lock coming off injury. So that may
whoever's in Pittsburgh, because I mentioned the Eagles there was a list I saw. The reason I'm bringing it up, there was a list of receivers that the Eagles could have drafted but skipped on that that hurt me as an Eagles fan. But I will say that whoever's in Pittsburgh right now for the Steelers organization picking these receivers, I mean, they've had some killer draft picks that I don't think a lot of Antonio Brown in his heyday was a late draft pick. Smith-Schuster, Claypool, like whoever is evaluating talent over there, keep it up,
Yep, for sure. Jonathan?
Yeah, so if you go back and look at one of our first few podcasts, I talked about how TD, he was one of the rookies to watch.
Yep.
And so he's been performing really well compared to other receivers. I think Justin Jefferson has a couple more fantasy points than him. I think CD's like 99, Justin Jefferson's like 101. But CeeDee Lamb, I think, is definitely the most reliable rookie receiver right now. Dak, obviously got hurt, but he's still the number 1 leader in passing yards, right? And I think that's because of the additional weapon of CeeDee Lamb. But despite that, Andy Dalton last week, he targeted CeeDee Lamb, or a few days ago, he targeted CeeDee Lamb 10 times. So 7 receptions for 10 yards, or 7 receptions for 10 targets, rather. And so I think that's similar to what Mark Cooper had a few days ago in that game against the Cardinals. But I really loved how CeeDee Lamb played. He really played his heart out. I think he rushed a couple times too. if I'm not mistaken. But I think this rookie is showing that he's reliable really early in his career, and he's showing a lot of promise for the future Cowboys offense. Once that comes back next year or what have you, I think our offense will, continue where it left off. But even in terms of this year, I think CeeDee Lamb is definitely the most reliable rookie receiver. You can depend on this guy. Every game, he's going to show up. You can take that to the bank. So CeeDee Lamb is definitely, for me, the top rookie receiver.
Yeah, those are three good picks. I think I'll quickly say one, Justin Jefferson, who I picked in my weekly picks on Saturday, and he blew up for his best game of the year on Sunday. So I think we could all agree he's probably in the top 5 rookie receivers. But one other guy I want to highlight, and this guy has been emerging as of late. We didn't really suspect him early on in the season, but T. Higgins in Cincinnati has really come on. In his last 4 games, his target share is, or he got 9 targets, 7 targets, 8 targets, and 8 targets. So he's a staple in this offense. A.J. Green had 8 targets last game. Tyler Boyd had 7 targets, I think. So Higgins is starting on the outside. Boyd in the slot, Green on the outside, and Higgins on the outside. And I really think that with the Bengals defense being as bad as it is, Burrow's going to have to throw a lot. And he's looking to Higgins a lot of the time. And I think he's only going to get better as the season goes on. So if he's available in one of your 10, 12-team fantasy leagues, I would get him in on your team because he could definitely be a flex play. And I wouldn't rule out trading him or trading for him. If you can trade one of your bench players or one of your flex players for him, I think he's a really good flex player. So I think for the rest of the year, with the Bengals throwing as much as they are, I think Higgins is going to emerge as a great rookie receiver.
I like that pick. All right, moving on. We'll keep it short. We'll do like a minute, 2 minute per person just to keep it going. But someone asked, what should they do with Odell Beckham Jr.? Now, Odell exploded for 38 points against Dallas, but we all know Dallas' defense is lacking. Was that a fluke game? What happened? Because he's had 5 points, 9 points, 4 points in his most recent game, and his last receiving touchdown was actually in the Dallas game. So for 2 straight weeks, he has had no receiving touchdowns. John, I'll start off with you first. What should fantasy owners do about Odell Beckham?
So I'll try to keep this under a minute. I'll shove a bunch into these next 60 seconds. But basically, fantasy owners, he's basically a flex play right now. If you take out that one game against Dallas, he's averaging 9.7 fantasy points per game, and that's in a PPR league. So he's at best a flex play right now. And if you could trade him for some other flex player, I would even do Odell for T. Higgins. I think the rest of the year, Higgins is going to do better than Odell. So I know Odell is a big name. If you could find somebody in your league that really values that big name player, then I would try to trade because he's just a flex player right now. And if you look at the Browns offense as a whole, Kevin Stefanski came in from Minnesota, and you know how Minnesota did last year. They just ran the ball a lot with Dalvin Cook, and you could see how they're playing this year. They're handing it off to Chubb and Hunt a lot. And yeah, the Odell did blow up against Dallas, but that was a fluke game. He's never going to have another 40-point game this season. He might have another 25-point game, but I think this is a guy that's just a flex play right now. You're not going to put him in at your wide receiver 1 or 2. So maybe trade him for another flex player or stack him with another player on your bench to try to get a wide receiver 2.
Anybody else want to add anything? That was beautifully said.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. I mean, at a certain point in fantasy, you just have to call it as it is. And I think exactly, John, as you're saying, I think if you use his name brand recognition to get a better pick for him, people see Odell, and if they remember how good he was in the Giants, they'll equate that to now. But the reality is he hasn't played that well. Now, he's a player that you can't, in a game, you can't count out. He has that talent to break out. But you're right. The Browns' offensive strategies run. So if you can run it, why throw it? Like, there's no need. And Odell just hasn't had that same level of success with the Giants. So if you're holding on to him, hoping that he gets back to where he was, I don't think that happens either. So if you can trade him, go right ahead. Use that to your advantage.
Yeah, I mean, if you have Odell Beckham, my question to you is, who else can you play instead of him? I would bench this guy. I'd drop him. I mean, trade him if the other person is stupid enough to trade him and get him. Look, this guy, he's inconsistent for sure. That one game, it was like, obviously Dallas sucks, but not only that, Baker Mayfield got benched last game, so they're gonna start to have some quarterback issues. The Cleveland, their identity, they want to be a run first offense and pass it here and there occasionally. Odell's not going to get as much targets for the rest of the season. I mean, he may have another outlier game like here and there, but definitely if you don't start Odell this season, don't feel bad at all. If he ends up having one good game, don't feel bad, because he's not consistent, and you can't start like an inconsistent player like Odell. And plus, there's a lot of uncertainty around the quarterback situation. Baker Mayfield, they can't depend on this guy, so just drop him. I mean, trade him. I mean, hopefully there's a stupid person in your league that will accept him, but
there always
drop him.
is.
Don't play him.
Or desperate.
Yeah, there's always some desperate people.
With any quarterback, it's crazy how much. And not to beat a dead horse, but like we talk about the rookie receivers, it's crazy how much chemistry matters. Like, even if you're not a big name receiver, if you have a connection with the quarterback, like if there's trouble at the quarterback position, just kind of abandon receivers from that team if the quarterback's bad. Like, it's kind of logical, but it's the same. Baker. If you're still asking if Baker's the guy, Odell's gonna suffer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, I agree with all that. I think you should trade Odell. Somebody asked any running backs they could consider picking up. I'll start this one because I want to see John's reaction. Or Jonathan, I should say. Tony Pollard. If no one has Tony Pollard in your league, pick him up, because he has a high reward. Because as we all saw Monday night, Elliott had 2 fumbles, which makes it 4 fumbles on the year. And what did they do? Oh, Elliott, stand aside, let Tony Pollard come in, and we're going to give you a shot. If Elliott fumbles again at any point in any other game, you know what they're going to do. They're going to put in Pollard. And luckily for Elliott, he didn't do that great. But and there's a small chance that they face a terrible defense, and Pollard comes in, has a huge, run, and now the offense starts to roll with him, and they start to use Pollard more and more and more and more. I want to bring up a stat. This is actually really funny. A little throwback for the fans watching. When we all lived together in 2017, it was Dak's first year, Dak and Elliott's first year. And John and I would make this comment that Dak couldn't win unless Elliott had more than 100 yards rushing. And I think it still holds. Like, I swear. But this season, their Atlanta Falcons win, he had 89 rushes. So they did win, but it was a comeback win, whatever. Elliott hasn't rushed for over 100 yards this season. And how many wins they have? 2? 2 wins. And he has not rushed for over 100 yards. He's not the player that he was before. I mean, at least not this season. And they need him to step up tremendously now that Dak's gone. And he did not show up. Those 2 fumbles are inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable, especially back-to-back fumbles. Inexcusable. Pick up Tony Pollard, because the next couple games you have Washington and then you have the Eagles. 2 really bad defenses that Tony Pollard, if he has one breakout run, the defense or the Dallas Cowboys might just roll with him and let Elliott sit on the side for a little bit. Elliott has something going on in his mental where he's not right, those 4 fumbles this season are the highest of any running back. Pick up Tony Pollard.
All right, that's a respectable pick. I don't know if Zeke's going to play bad enough to do that, but we'll see. Another guy that I said in my weekly picks on Saturday, DeAndre Swift, a rookie running back. I was able to predict his breakout game. So hopefully you guys were able to hear that on Saturday and were able to pick him up and put him in and win your league. But again, nobody listens to me usually, so I'm the only one that gets to use my advice. But anyway.
Dude, like 90% of the comments were like, I should have listened to you.
And I'm like, why didn't you? Anyway, pick up Swift, put him in your lineups. I know Adrian Peterson is there, Kerryon Johnson is there, but Swift, I don't know if he'll have another great game like that. He could definitely have over 100 yards and a touchdown here and there, but I think they're going to try to get him more involved. Peterson, they know that Swift is the future of that backfield. So they're going to try to get him more carries. So definitely pick him up 10, 12, 14-person leagues. I'm sure he's already taken, but a 10, 12-team league, try to pick him up. Maybe you could trade one of your bench players for him, trade one of your running backs. I think that he's a good starter, or at least flex play. You could put him in your RB2 spot based on the matchup. And another guy I want to mention that if he's not on your team, if he's available in your league, you need to pick him up is James White. You saw the Patriots, their offense is not playing as well, and people are able to move the ball on their defense. Denver wasn't able to get into the end zone, but people are able to move the ball on them, and Cam has to throw a lot. I mean, their running game isn't that strong, and they know Cam has to throw, and Cam has no receivers to throw to. He only has Edelman, and Edelman was literally invisible the other day. N'Keal Harry wasn't there. He dumps it off to James White. James White led them in receiving yards. So you guys, please do me a favor, pick up James White. I would even put him in your starting lineup this week against San Francisco. Put him in that flex spot. If it's a PPR league, definitely pick him up and put him in that flex spot because he's going to get 8 to 10 catches against San Francisco, 50, 60, 70 yards, and maybe a touchdown. So he's a great flex play. Get him, trade one of your bench players maybe. Same thing as Swift. Maybe try to trade one of your bench players for him because for the rest of the year, now that James White is healthy, you could definitely throw him in. Definitely PPR league, standard league, maybe not as much, but definitely pick him up and get him on your bench.
Anybody else have anyone to add?
I have someone to not, if you have him, to not put faith in him. Which is a weird thing to say. I will say I think I'm not going to be able to give better advice than John on this topic, but I will say from experience, I mean, there's a strong chance a lot of people could get Swift because he's 76% roster. I know I mentioned, and general advice, if you're in a deeper league, I think a lot of the options you're looking at are like trifecta backfields where the teams are employing. A couple teams now use multiple running backs for different situations. So if you can try to poach one that uses catches for PPR, that's one thing I would look. And you mentioned Elliott not doing well, Jared. I think one reason is that you got to consider how well that team does on offense. Like, are they in the lead a lot? Because if a team's coming from behind a lot, they're not going to run it, or at least that won't be the core of their game anymore. So find a team that's, starts off strong and tries to hold a lead because that's a stronger start. The one player I will say that I've had on fantasy before that I think is a good player but just struggles with injuries. I feel bad for him because I like him a lot. But Leonard Fournette, you saw how I think the other running back for the Bucs did well. I think it was Ronald Jones killed it. Fournette was a good addition, but I think he's dealing with an ankle injury, which was also when I had him as fantasy. He struggled with that as well. So I hope it's not the same injury. I hope he heals up and does better. But that was something that I think he has a high ceiling, but if you're holding on to him, be careful from my own experience. That'd be my advice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess someone else would be Boston Scott because Miles Sanders is not going to play this week. So, I mean, Carson doesn't have any other receivers to throw to, he's going to start throwing to Boston Scott. But I don't know. I think it's a down year for running backs besides like Derrick Henry and maybe Dalvin Cook before he got injured. It's just been like a down year for running backs in fantasy. That concludes Q&A section. Any other questions that we didn't answer or that majority are towards fantasy, we'll actually be doing a TikTok live, and John and I will be answering fantasy questions, watching the Thursday night game. Maybe we'll FaceTime Caleb or Jonathan and get their input on the game and stuff. But yeah, all those fantasy questions that were asked on the TikTok video, we will try and answer as many as we can on that TikTok live Thursday during the Thursday night football game. For our last section, as always, game of the week or games of the week, we have Steelers versus Titans, a battle of the undefeateds, and Cardinals and Seahawks. Cardinals came off a huge win, and the Seahawks are coming off a bye week. Let's keep it short and sweet, guys. Jonathan, Steelers or Titans?
Titans. I mean, Derrick Henry is just a beast. Tannehill is starting to be able to pick apart defenses. I think that's unstoppable.
Okay, John?
Caleb, you can go next.
Okay, I'll be short too.
I have to go last because I get it right. I don't want you guys to.
Well, there's going to be some division. It's a really tough call because I really respect the Titans. I think they have a really if you saw what Rabel did in sending the 12th man out, I mean, I'm not going to get into it, but that was like some big brain move that he did, and it's like he's done that before and some acting on his part. So they got a smart coach over there in Tennessee. But I'm leaning towards the Steelers. This with the emergence of Claypool, and they still have Smith-Schuster and other weapons on that team. And I think people forget Roethlisberger. I mean, he was out last season, but he's a steady hand amongst a lot of veteran QBs who are starting to be not pushed out the door, but you see a lot of young guys starting their franchises. Roethlisberger's still there, and he's playing very well. So I'm gonna give the edge to Steelers on this one.
I'm gonna go with the Titans. A big loss for the Steelers was Devin Bush, their linebacker, their leader of that defense. So we'll see how they play against the Titans, but I think they're gonna have a little bit of a down slope in their defensive abilities, and the Titans will capitalize on that, and they will come out with a win.
All right, so the team that will win on Sunday is the Steelers. The Steelers have a better defense than the Titans. The Titans haven't hit that brick wall of a defense yet, and I don't think Henry will the 150 rushing yards that he's accustomed to, even with Devin Bush out. I know one of the comments on the TikTok Q&A section was, do you think Ryan Spleen will be able to fill the role of Devin Bush? And from what I saw after Bush left over the weekend against Cleveland, I think Spleen looked pretty good, and I think he could tackle Derrick Henry. I know that's a big statement, but I think he's in a good position to run that defense, and I trust Roethlisberger. I think they're going to run it a lot. I think James Conner is going to have over 100 yards, and I think they're going to throw it because Tennessee's pass defense is not that good. You saw Justin Jefferson go for 170 yards on them. When you look at the Steelers, you can't think of anybody that's had a huge game on them. I mean, the Eagles did put up 28 points. The only guy was Fulgham, but I think that the Steelers will be able to come out with this win.
Okay. And Cardinals, Seahawks. I'll start this one because you guys know I'm rocking with the Cardinals day in and day out. Cardinals all day. It's going to be tough. I'll be straight with you guys. It's going to be a tough game. They're going to have to be absolutely perfect on offense and perfect on defense. And to be honest, the way they played against the Cowboys in that first half, if they do that same thing, they're going to lose. They need to come out hot and score early on the Seahawks and make sure they put them away early. This will probably be DeAndre Hopkins' biggest game. I'm going to call that. It's going to be his biggest game of the season so far. not only for just proving himself against a good team, but just statistically, he's gonna go off. I really can feel it, and it's gonna be a good win for the Cardinals. Caleb?
I think it's going to be a fun game to watch because I think Kyler's younger and it shows, but they have similarities in their style, the two quarterbacks there, Russell Wilson and Kyler. But and I'm biased, but I'm going with the Seahawks on this one. I think they're playing really well. They have, similar. The teams are similar, but I think Russell Wilson's too hot right now to be stopped, and I think that's going to hold up against the Cardinals.
Jonathan?
It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a fun game to watch. My heart, I want Cardinals to win. I'm going to be rooting for Cardinals. I hope they win, but I think Seahawks are going to win, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Cardinals win. I'm going to be rooting for Kyler, but I think Seahawks will win. But I hope I'm wrong. We'll see what happens.
All right, John, who's going to win, really?
Sorry, but yeah, the Seahawks are going to win this one. It's going to be so close, though. I'm really looking forward to watching this game because of the streak that the Cardinals are on right now. But with the Seahawks having their bye, I think that they'll be able to game plan, watch the Cardinals play the Cowboys, and I think they might get Jamal Adams back. And if they get him back, it's going to be a scary sight for Kenyon Drake. So I'm going to go with the Seahawks on this one.
All right. Hey, do you want people to go to the casinos and put money on it?
No, don't put money on any of my picks, or at least my team's picks this week. Wait for Saturday because those are the picks you really got to put money on. But
that's for sure.
These games, I'm not overly confident like I was about the 49ers.
Some close ones.
And no bets this week. We don't need that added stress.
We don't need to do it.
No, we
so
don't.
much anxiety for no reason.
All right. That was a long podcast, but it was a good one. It was filled with Q&As. It was filled with debating about Josh Allen. We had a good podcast. If you guys want more content, go over to our TikTok. I'll be posting short clips from the podcast. We post fantasy football content, as we said before. John's fantasy picks for that week will come out on Saturday. So you want to follow the TikTok. You also want to go over and follow our Instagram because same thing's going on there. You're going to get updates from John's fantasy picks. You're going to get news updates from the NFL. And yeah, I think that rounds out our social media. Thank you guys for watching and tuning in. Comment down below if you guys made it this far and you came from TikTok. We want to see all the fans. And thank you for the support and all the subscribes and the follows. And we're excited for what's to come. So thank you guys, and we will see you guys next week, Thursday at 10 a.m. as always.